I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Annie. Hi, Jeff. Hi,
Oh, geez,
Jean.
My
Hey, guys.
aunt shown up and my
Hi,
uncle.
Scott.
Hi, Matt.
Hey,
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Is it Ellie?
Ellie, or I go by Beth. Actually,
Hi,
Beth is
Annie.
my family name.
Ali.
And my husband, Ali, Matt's uncle.
Hmm.
Hi.
Everybody else.
Hi, Scott and Ann.
Hey,
So
Ann. how
happy to have Matt's family here today, too. So cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Is it cool, Matt? That we're
Oh
here?
yeah, yes, it's very cool that my family comes continually around to embarrass me, as if I don't embarrass myself enough already. So,
We're happy to help.
oh yeah,
I know Mary Lou was going to join us too. She signed up.
Oh, let me send her a text. Where is she?
She was joining a little earlier. I'll give us a couple of minutes before we get started. Happy Thanksgiving week, everyone.
Thanks. I just got off the 7.5 hour work shift. So
Wow.
well, I'm happy
Yeah.
that you're here to chill with us, Jeff.
yeah. I usually don't work Wednesdays, but because it's the day before Thanksgiving, kind of had to make an exception. So and
Mhm.
when I left, the grocery store was a mess. Wrongs of people. So
Yeah, heaviest grocery shopping day of the year and busiest travel day of the year. So just be thankful you're not in an airport right now.
Ooh,
That's a good point.
So true.
Didn't I tell you, Matt, I'm coming out tonight? I'm flying out to see you. No.
Okay.
Where are you located?
We're in Boston.
Oh,
really,
Yes.
cool.
Anybody else from
That's what-
Boston?
I'm near Providence.
Oh, okay. You're local. We're neighbors.
Brookline, good little area.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Mary Lou.
Hi, Mayor. You're in the you're on mute, Mayor.
Yeah. There we go.
Matt, can I share with everyone what I shared on the pre-call with you?
Oh sure.
Yeah, it's really fun. Rebecca and I always have like 10 minutes before anyone goes on to a lunch and learn. And it's just kind of a time to connect and warm up. And I was telling Matt how, ever since Rebecca met, is it you, Mary Lou?
Yep, me.
Okay, so I look forward to meeting you sometime. You're in San Diego, correct?
I am. Yeah, I'd love to meet you.
Yeah, for sure. This new year. I'm actually with Garrett in North Carolina right now. But yeah, I still come to San Diego all the time. Anyway, I'm not sure who here saw the panel that Matt was on with Dr. Levy and Otto and team. It was the Living Autistically panel. And I knew when I met Matt that I absolutely wanted him to meet Dr. Levy because of their shared just, passion, right, Matt? You guys have a lot of the same passions.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I knew it when I met Matt, like 100%, I have to introduce him to Dr. Levy. And so we went to dinner and I felt like you guys were fast friends, Matt.
Oh.
And so anyway, from the neuroscience conference that we just did November 4th, we've already had over 3,000 views on our YouTube channel. Once we put it up on UCTV, we had over 100,000 views of our conference last year that's held on UCTV. So I'm really excited because I feel like Matt was so strong on that panel, and I know the Leslies are here, and I want to tell you how happy I am to see you and how much I know Matt and you guys are meant to connect also. And so I was telling Matt on the pre-call, you guys, that I see him moderating a panel next year for Autism at Work, and it be people with autism that are involved in Comic-Con and Marvel and all the things that the world that Matt is in, because I only know a little bit, but John Hickey was even texting me from Comic-Con saying there was a panel, like a neurodiversity panel, and there's a lot happening within Comic-Con, I know, related to this. So I'm just so excited to bring more of that to light. I already was, and then I met Matt, and it's like, he's just a rock star to be able to moderate it and just embraces it. And having him here right now during Thanksgiving week, I kind of feels no accident. And just that I get to see everybody, but also the Leslie family. I feel like I haven't seen all you guys are right in front of me in a little row, and that's like an extra blessing. For those of you that don't know the Leslie family, we've been together almost since the beginning. And I just can't imagine our Winter Wonderland this year is going to be our 13th annual, and it would never be the Winter Wonderland it is without the Leslie family, who has brought this green screen and just really made this a sort of magical element within the Winter Wonderland, is all their family and their family's legacy. So that's coming up. In case anybody's in San Diego, I absolutely invite you to Winter Wonderland. It's my favorite way to end the year every year. And so I'm being long-winded, but what I really wanted to make sure that everyone here knows is I see Matt moderating the panel next year for Autism at Work, and Dr. Levy having a panel that's the typers. I see that breaking out from what happened this year. And if you didn't see it, please go watch that panel. You can go back and watch just that panel. I know everybody's really busy, but it was so fantastic. So with that, I'm passing it off to Rebecca and just saying, I feel extraordinarily blessed to see all your faces right now and to wish you very, very happy Thanksgiving week.
Thank you, Dana. And for anyone who doesn't know me already, my name is Rebecca. I'm the Director of Operations at Autism Tree, and Dana and I have been hosting these Lunch and Learns every single week since the pandemic first started and the schools closed in San Diego. And we have now done 101 Lunch and Learns. So I'm really proud of that. And we have a little bit of a format, but I'm going to do a quick intro and then we'll jump in and have Matt speak. So a couple Zoom rules: please mute yourself when you're not speaking. We recommend speaker view for the presentation. Video sharing is optional, or sharing your video is optional. That we'd love to see all of your faces. And please type all questions and comments into the chat. We are so welcome. Thanks, Jeff, for already getting it started. Please feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I will help moderate it. Matt, if you see a question, you can feel free to speak out too. We love to see everybody communicating with each other in the chat. And we will have a Q&A at the end as well. It's about 10-15 minutes where you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions too. A quick update from Autism Tree. We do these every week, and just to give our community a sense of where we are and what we're doing. We've now reached over 720,000 people across all of our social media channels. So Autism Tree is on all of the social platforms: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So if you want to follow what we're doing, all that we're doing in San Diego and beyond, you can check that out. Like I mentioned, we have 100 Lunch and Learns now uploaded to our YouTube channel. It's all under one playlist. We have a different guest speaker every single week from our community, and Dana and I absolutely love every single one of them. They're so amazing, and we do share them out as resources and inspiration to new parents and new families that come into the fold of Autism Tree all the time. So thanks for joining us today, and I'm really excited. We have, since January of 2022, we have already coordinated 192 family events this year, with 24 events coming up between now and the end of the year. Like Dana mentioned, our Winter Wonderland is happening. It's our biggest holiday celebration of the year, and we have it will be on Saturday, December 3rd, which is next week, Saturday already. It'll be from 4 to 7 p.m. at USD campus. So you can register for free online. It's free for anybody to attend. We just ask that they RSVP. But it's totally a fun activity. We have 12 holiday arts and crafts stations and a Santa Claus that hands out toys and takes pictures. And like Dana said, the Leslie family so generously provides a green screen, which is the coolest part of the event as well. So I'd highly recommend checking it out, coming out and visiting us. We offer 19 programs in addition to our Winter Wonderland. Throughout the year, we offer 19 programs for our families, all provided at no charge to them. 13 are currently in person. We have 3 that are hybrid and then 3 that are virtual, like these lunch and learns. We have 485 videos on our YouTube channel that have been submitted by parents and volunteers and families, our whole community. It's been incredible. That's something that we started only during the pandemic in 2020, and it's grown to something so incredibly amazing. So you can subscribe. We post every single week. We'd love to see you on there, or if you want to submit a video to say anything to our families, we welcome that too, and we'd love to share those. So without further ado, I will introduce Matt Dunford. So I'm really excited. Dana passed it on to me to do the intro because I brought Matt in kind of through Autism Tree, and that was through meeting Mary Lou, his aunt, which I wish I had a picture. Oh, I wish I had put this picture of Mary Lou and me, but we had met earlier this year, totally organically at a awards ceremony, a grant. One of the Autism Tree was being recognized for being awarded a grant from the Mission Bay Women's Club, and Mary Lou also volunteers for an organization that was receiving the same honor. And we happened to sit next to each other at the table, and we just got talking about what we do, and completely organically she told me about Matt and that she goes to see him every single week, or not every week, but very often for lunch. And so she said, you have to meet him. He's amazing. And then Dana and I set up a Zoom call to meet Matt. And I mean, Matt will speak for himself. You can see that he is an incredible human being and an inspiration to as autistic adults and everywhere. And we were so grateful to have him be a part of our Living Autistically panel. These are a few pictures that were just taken at our 2292 hybrid global neuroscience conference on November 4th. So this is you'll see on that's Dana and Matt on the left, and then on the top right we have the whole Living Autistically panel. There's Otto and Dr. Levy, our board members, Alexander Tacone, Linda Townsend, Dr. Motri, which is our chairman of the conference, Elaine Hall in front of Matt, and then we also have William and Bella as well, who are our typers. So William, Bella, and Otto are so amazing. And then you'll see below is our full Living Autistically panel with Elaine and the typers and Dr. Levy. It was such an amazing, this was one of my favorite panels to plan for this conference this year. And I just feel so blessed that Matt is a part of our community now. And I'll pass it over to you, Matt. Thank you so much for making the time to be here and connect with everyone and share your story.
Okay, so once again, thank you so much, Rebecca, for having me here today. Hi, my name is Matt Dunford. I'm coming to you live from the legendary room here at Upper Deck Entertainment in lovely Carlsbad, California. I'm happy to be, here in the presence of Wolverine, Psylocke, and all the other geeky superhero characters that I've been fortunate enough to work with. And I guess it all starts very much as a kid. I liked very specific things as a child. The first thing that I really found myself falling in love with, had an obsession with pirates as a kid. My favorite toys back in the day were Lego pirates, and I would probably watch Peter Pan 500 times a day. And I don't really wear hats anymore, but there was a period of time where I could not be seen anywhere without a Lego pirate hat from Disneyland, and I would wear them until they fell apart. So I had my Goofy hat with Matthew written on it. I mean, that was the that was peak style back in the day. You could not compete with that. But ultimately, you know, I love playing with Lego Pirates. I didn't really care for the other Lego sets, but the pirate ones were the ones that were really cool for me. And then I got a very special Lego pirate set that my mother had given me when I was about 6 years old, in like 1992. It was and it had a comic in the back. It actually was originally translated from a Belgian comic book that told the story of the Lego pirates called Captain Redbeard and the Gold Medallion. And I read that comic book every single day, except I couldn't read. And I was so fascinated that these Lego pirates had a story of their own, but I would always ask my mom and my dad to read it for me every single day. And they just got so fed up with me reading it that I just could not. They got me hooked on phonics so they could actually teach me to read this comic book. In fact, there was a incident once where I was at Aunt Mary Lou's old house, and I was sitting at the foot of their garage, and there was a basketball net over me as I was sitting reading my Lego Pirate comic, and someone actually scored a shot, and a basketball came down and hit me right in the head when I was reading my Lego Pirate comic, and I started crying. And I just, I was not upset to be I was more upset to be interrupted from my story than I was to be, hit in the head with a basketball. But ultimately, that led me to reading my first comic book right there, and then that kind of just, and it advances on the story to this incident where I was walking down the aisles of a Toys R Us in 1992 with my dad, and I saw suddenly the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. It was the cover to Spectacular Spider-Man issue 189, which was my first Spider-Man comic. I saw this collection of 30 Spider-Man comics, which was celebrating 30 years of Spider-Man, and I just told my dad, I will have a screaming fit unless you buy this for me. Because I mean, those hologram covers were how they hooked kids back in the early 90s. And yeah, I mean, it works. So I read those Spider-Man comics until they fell apart. That was my first exposure to Spider-Man. And it got me, turned on into a comic book fanboy. And ultimately, the thing that happened after that is I got a taste of these characters, and it's like, oh, but Spider-Man's battling this guy and this guy and this guy. Cool. I want to learn more about these characters. And, you go to around then, at that point, comics were just about everywhere. You go to a convenience store that have a spinner rack full of comics. And so I'd, buy one for $1 and a Milky Way Midnight and a pack of gum and a cherry Coke. And so that would be my meager $5 allowance that would get me my X-Men and Spider-Man books back in the day. And I wanted to learn more about these characters, and I knew they had iconic appearances, but if on the rare occasions when I would get to go to comic stores or toy stores back in the day, I'd see those comic books and those iconic stories, and I couldn't afford them. So what did I do? I learned about them from the backs of trading cards. Trading card packs were still readily available. Stuff like Marvel Masterpieces, Fleer Ultra X-Men, Fleer Ultra Spider-Man were the standards of the time, where I could learn about, I could see, this great visual art, this great visual representation of the character on one side, and on the back it would have listing their first appearance, their power level, their fighting skill, how many wins they've had, how many losses they've had, and cool tidbits of stories to get these characters in. And now here I am 30 years later, basically in charge of those very same trading cards that I grew up collecting as a child. And so, I want to give back to the community that got me into all of this. And I just, I'm still a raving fanboy. I love this stuff, but now here I have grown and made it my passion as a professional.
Mhm. Thanks, Matt. I mean, we're so impressed. And tell us about what you've done with the San Diego Comic Fest a little bit in that background.
Okay, yeah. So San Diego Comic Fest, which no, it's not San Diego Comic Con, but it's started by the same people who started San Diego Comic Con. I serve as chairman of the event San Diego Comic Fest, which is a smaller, more intimate version of the San Diego Comic Con. I've been in this role since 2017. Comic Fest was founded by Mike Towery and Richard Alf, who originally started San Diego Comic Con back in 1969. They started the event, which when Mike was about 15 years old, he just had this idea to think, does anyone out there else other than me and my group of friends actually like comic books? So he got the idea to reach out to Richard Alf, who ran a comic book store at the time. And he said, do you think you could help us put together an event to, find other people who like comic books? And they thought, yeah, that's a great idea. And so they looked around for some spots, and ultimately they settled on the basement of the El Cortez Hotel downtown San Diego. Back then, it wasn't quite as nice as it was back in the day, because it was kind of a seedy area with, very scantily clad women, and not in a pretty well. I guess it's kind of had a little resurgence of that, but the U.S. Grant is still a very lovely venue these days. And those guys decided, okay, they're going to put together an event, and they're going to call it California's Golden State Comic Book Convention. And of course, they used California in the title because San Diego was not a readily known city at the time. And then they got the idea to invite Jack Kirby, who is the Marvel artist who he worked on such characters. He helped create Captain America in 1941, went on to create the Fantastic Four in 1961, the Incredible Hulk, had a hand in creating these guys, the X-Men, and Thor. Marvel is ultimately considered the house that Jack built, although Stan Lee shared co-writing work with Jack, helping to write the dialogue and stories for these characters. Jack was doing the heavy lifting, and basically is the guy who did the artwork and crafted these stories of all these characters that we know and love. And Jack agreed to be the guest of honor at that first San Diego Comic-Con, or Golden State Comic Convention. And the first event happened in 1969 at the El Cortez. The first person to walk in and sign the guest book was a up-and-coming aspiring writer by the name of George R.R. Martin. If that name sounds familiar, he would later go on to write Game of Thrones. And the 250-person show in 1969 evolved into a 500-person show in 1970. And Jack Kirby, at the second year, he said, look at the show. It's already doubled in size. Just you wait. Next thing you know, it's going to be so big that it's going to take over the entire town. It's going to be the place where Hollywood comes to show off the movies they made last year and find the movies they're going to make next year. And they all kind of laughed at Jack, but he was the Nostradamus of comics. And, as the convention continued to grow and flourish, the creators kind of parted their ways. They went off to college, they started families, but the convention kept growing on without them. So the founders of Comic-Con were brought back to the show in 2009, were hailed celebrating the 40th anniversary of the show. And they we're very happy that the convention has evolved into the behemoth that it is. It attracts 200,000 people now, although the thing is, of the comic conventions of the 1970s, it had lost that intimacy that you once had, because when it was held in a small, relatively contained hotel venue, you had this opportunity to hang out with all of these great creators of comics and animation and science fiction. And now at the bigger scene, when you've got people, oh, there's a famous person, and they're getting hounded by fans, or they have to be rushing off to another thing. You kind of lose that. I'm not opposed to San Diego Comic-Con. I've been going every year since 1994, and I still love it. But it's okay to have a variety. So I helped out starting off as a volunteer with San Diego Comic Fest. I could tell that a lot of the people involved with this, they hadn't really been reading a whole lot of comics, or, not quite connected to the community. I still have an appreciation for that comic history that they love and the era that they love. But, you can modernize things and find a balance where, it doesn't have to be having a Miss Havisham vibe of of convention of that just that's in the past, but you can, bring things to the future. And I kind of found this way, and I have been, they thought I was so helpful that they appointed me as chairman of the event, which is sort of like acting as Darth Vader to the Emperor. And I like that because I don't like to sit on the throne. I like to go out and get stuff done. And so in the first role that we did, I started off in 2017 overseeing the event as we celebrated the centennial of Jack Kirby. And then in 2018, we celebrated 200 years of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein as our theme, which basically set the stage for what we now know as modern day science fiction, creating the modern zombie mythos. And no one else was doing anything for Frankenstein, none of the horror conventions, none of the literature conventions. So it boiled down to us to celebrate that immensely important literary theme. In 2019, we celebrated 50 years of the Apollo 11 moon landing as our theme. showcasing how the space age influenced our fiction, from everything from Star Trek to the Jetsons. There's pretty much a decade defined by the space race in our fiction. In 2020, we celebrated 100 years of Ray Bradbury and Ray Harryhausen, the genius of film and the genius of science fiction. And celebrating the importance of their work. And fortunately, we were able to get that show off 3 days before the pandemic hit. And so I count my blessings that we were able to do that. The show took a hiatus in 2021, and we brought it back this year in 2022, celebrating 100 years of Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek. And we're going to bring it back in 2023, celebrating 100 years of the pulp magazine Weird Tales, which is where creators such as H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard, who created Conan the Barbarian, got their starts in these pulps, which were actually seen as trashy publications and demonized by the publics, but it gave the foundation for what we know as modern day comics and eventually into science fiction. It's all starting there. And so I think, celebrating pulp fiction with major characters like Conan the Barbarian, The Shadow, and Doc Savage, I think that's a cool theme to celebrate. So I'm looking forward to bringing it back. We're always we're always looking for more fans, volunteers, charitable donations, anything you can do to make this event go, because I just love showcasing this stuff. You can tell I haven't taken a breath yet. So that's how much I love talking about this stuff.
What is San Diego Comic Fest, Matt?
We're eyeballing the April 21st weekend. So it'll be like a 4-day event going from Thursday to Sunday. And I think it's going to be really cool. We'll announce our venue and details soon. It's just putting pen to the paper on the final details, and I can finally get started. I'm like a slingshot ready to fire. I'm just like, give me the word, give me the word, give me the word.
How does it feel to be in charge of it all and being a leader in that community? Like leading.
It still feels really weird to me, but it's an opportunity for me to bring in aspects of all the stuff that I love and bring in creators that I've respected so long in my life, just to have this opportunity. And and as much as I am a fanboy, I try not to shoehorn in my own personal fanboy into this. I do this for the community, for the event, to create a fresh and new and unique experience for what we're going for. There's a lot of other conventions that kind of just, oh, it's a dealer room, you can come and buy. And it's like, I'm not really looking to make a swap meet. I want to have people who have experience in creating this stuff, in creating comic books and creating animation and creating science fiction, so they can have a chance to talk with these fans, because these people could be walking down the street and I'm like, did you know this guy, made this TV show and this comic and this, and it's like they wouldn't get recognized. And I want people to know these creators and celebrate them the way that I do, because I love this stuff, and it's sharing that love with it. I mean, I'm not going to knock, superhero movies or stuff like that. But, like Hollywood has its place in Hollywood. San Diego is a comic book town. And I want us to show that we have this great, wonderful, rich history of comic book publishers, comic art, and, the San Diego convention itself. And I want people to think continually of San Diego as a center stage for comic books. And so it's wonderful that I get to help put together all this stuff. And of course, it's not without its challenges. I know that our venue is probably going to be a lot more expensive this time around with inflation and changing things and, coming back from COVID. But, I'm still going to take these challenges and move forward with them, because I love what I do and I want to share what I love with everyone.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what makes you so inspiring. I think, I kind of want to redirect. So Autism Tree obviously has a lot of families, and I know a lot of parents will watch this, and I know that they'll probably watch you and they'll be like, wow, like he's so accomplished, he's so knowledgeable, he's like your talent relations coordinator at Upper Deck, you're doing what you love. And we have about 200 teens in our team program in our community that are now graduating and trying to make that transition to college or finding a career that they love. What tips first, what are some of the challenges that I know you worked really hard to get to where you're at? Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about the challenges that you faced and how you overcame them.
Yeah. Ultimately, here I am in this day and age doing things that I love, but I didn't always do what I love. Um, when I went to college, I actually was I started off at UC Santa Barbara as a communication major. I thought, okay, that sounds like a cool major, kind of like wandering aimlessly. And then I realized, oh, this is kind of boring. I'm going to switch to something I find a little more uh, impactful and in good for me. I had started off as a transfer student at Mesa College, where ultimately I will admit that I got the best part of my education at Mesa in the community college. And I think community colleges get an unfair rap. And so, I mean, it's not about where you start, it's about where you finish when it comes to schools. And so, but even then, I still think community colleges in America deserve more respect for what they're going for. And I had an anthropology teacher there named Joan Miller, and I ultimately just think she gave me this great love of anthropology because she was so friendly and so nice and so wonderful and forthcoming. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do her proud. And so I'm going to follow in those footsteps there and do anthropology and archaeology as a major. And I had been inspired by the Indiana Jones movies. Of course, we all love the Indiana Jones movies, especially the fourth one, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which is universally loved by everyone. Um, but the first thing they teach you in archaeology is my professor said, I know all of you are here because you love Indiana Jones, but the first thing I need to tell you is that Indiana Jones is the worst archaeologist of all time. And he steals artifacts. No, he's disrespectful to native tribes. No, if you look closely, it's the Nazis who are doing proper excavation. Indiana Jones is a grave robber. Like, and it's like, and he's selling artifacts to museums rather than donating them. And so that kind of just warps your perception. But I still love learning about world cultures, ancient cultures, linguistics, all the things that were involved in anthropology. And the thing is, I thought, okay, this is cool. And I, maybe I can go on and, get a master's in it now that I'm done with college. But right after I got back to San Diego after graduating, I received the word that Joan Miller had just died suddenly. I know she had been having some health problems, but it just really shook me. And just seeing her one last time at her funeral, I never had the will to go back into anthropology after that, and I kind of just moved on. And it was just one of those just soul shattering moments where someone who had given you and inspired you to do something you love had suddenly passed away. But so I had done that, but earlier in that year, I had also kind of had this, crucial juncture in something of what I wanted to do. Like a lot of kids on the spectrum, I got into Pokemon. It's the game that's perfectly suited for kids on the spectrum. I've been playing Pokemon since October of 1998, and in 2009, what was it? March of 2009, I actually had gone down to Los Angeles to a Pokemon tournament that day, and I just hung out with some friends, had a good time down in Los Angeles. And before I went back up to Santa Barbara, I just thought, okay, let me check out what else is going on in the hood. And so I saw that they were actually doing a chat with a writer and editor by the name of Len Wein. Len Wein was speaking at Meltdown Comics, and Len, you might know him as the writer who created this guy here, Wolverine and Swamp Thing, and he wrote the Hulk, and he was one of the defining creators of Marvel Comics during the 1970s. He was speaking there that night about serving as the editor on the graphic novel Watchmen. And this was actually my first time hearing about what a comic editor does. I had been reading comics all my life, but I had always perceived editors as as glorified spell checkers. But the way that Len spoke about things, he was a guiding light to the stories. He helped the artists, he helped the writers, he helped these projects get done on time. He brought ideas. It's like an editor wasn't just a spell checker. It was ultimately like being in the director's seat. And I thought, wow, that's actually really, really cool. And I spoke with him afterwards. I mean, how does one become a comic editor? He's just become so knowledgeable about comics in every way, shape, or form. So I started, bringing in more comics and reading more things and learning more comic history and just learning everything I could about art and these things that I kind of just went off the rails. And that year at San Diego Comic-Con, it was the 2009 one, where a lot of the founders of Comic-Con were being brought back for the for the 40th anniversary. They had brought in a guy to speak on the Jack Kirby tribute panel, honoring his memory, and there was a guy there named Roger Friedman, who's one of the he doesn't consider himself a founding father. He calls himself a founding uncle, as since he was there at one of those the early meetings helping out with everything. And he mentioned that he was a physics professor at UC Santa Barbara. So the following quarter, I would go back to UC Santa Barbara and actually go to his office hours and learn everything I could about Comic-Con history. And because I learned so much in that year, at the end of that year, he actually told me, he asked me if I wanted to be sit on a PhD dissertation panel for a guy getting a degree in superheroology. So I thought that you could actually do that. How come I couldn't have got that when I was here? But it was actually a theater arts degree that he was getting. So I actually served on the panel. I was probably on my 4th day without sleep, 60 cups of coffee deep, but I still dropped everything that I was doing in my finals week and came up with essay questions that the university deemed appropriate, and actually used them on this student's test to like say, where would you, in terms of superheroes, when would you say ushered in the golden age of comics? And if you could answer something like Action Comics #1 in 1938, the debut of Superman, and say, well, what would you say ended this silver age of comics? And if they could say Amazing Spider-Man, the death of Gwen Stacy, which caused a darkening of the superhero genre. So I'm not asking very specific issues, but I want to talk about events and causality, and that's where history ultimately comes from. But those things were some of the cool things that I were doing, but of course I had to snap back to reality. Joan Miller had passed away, and I was a college graduate in a bad economy with an anthropology degree. I don't exactly look like the most employable person in the world on a resume with, like, not really much job experience or whatever. So I took whatever I could get. So I got a job working as a chauffeur at Torrey Pines Town Car. And boy, did I not like that job, because you're technically, hired on as a contractor, not as an employee. And so employees can work 8-hour days, whereas like contractors, you work whenever there's work. So there's always a 4:30 a.m. call. There's always an 11 p.m. call. And so I was putting in these 20-hour days if I was lucky, like working nonstop, but I worked hard at that job. And despite having, working for a boss where nothing was ever good enough for him, despite me being called the best chauffeur in San Diego, getting screamed at and angry reactions from my boss, but loving reactions from my guests and everyone who I worked with. And I was always thorough, always 15 minutes early to everyone. And I just said, I would be there 15 minutes early, dressed in my suit, car ready for you, always washed, always prepared for you, and just say to everyone, do you have everything you may need? Wallet, keys, cell phone charger, passport, boarding pass, laptop charger, hairbrush, toothbrush, camera, all the essentials of travel, house looked up, tied, and all pets tended to. Can still do it in one breath. Yeah, just to make sure. And it's like, and 9 times out of 9, oh, I got to run up for my cell phone charger. Yeah, that's the one. I did that for close to 3 years, until the point where it just broke me. I just couldn't do it anymore. I just looked at my comic books, and I just felt I didn't want to read them. I wasn't interested in them. And I just the sleep deprivation and the constant verbal abuse from my boss just broke me. And then I just said, how come I'm not interested in the things that I do anymore? And they said, Matt, that's called depression. And I'm like, no, that's not a real thing. It's just like, no, it's like, no, there's eventually to the point where you can just be treated like a slave, and life is derailed for you so much that you just can't keep going on. And it's still something I do struggle with these days, because it is hard to find that joy and that passion for yourself, but I want to make sure that I work hard to find it for others. And yeah, it was a role that I really just did not like, but still, while I was doing this, there were some flickers of light along the way. In around 2011, I had gone to a comic book nerds meetup, and I had struck up a conversation with a guy who really liked my knowledge, and it turns out he was the publisher of a small press comic book imprint called Semantic Publishing. And I asked him, hey, do you guys have any, internships or opportunities for a guy who wants to be an editor? And he says, well, why would you want to be an editor? Nobody wants to be an editor. Writers settle for being an editor. Well, I think it's cool. And so as I aspired to it, I basically started working and overseeing a single title, and doing some research for the company. And they'd say, okay, here's your tasks. I want all these tasks done within a month. And the next morning I'd have everything done. They're like, how did you do that? I'm a UC Santa Barbara student. I'm the king of the all-nighter. And I worked for Semantic Publishing for 3 years until the company ultimately folded. And I kept working, as a chauffeur, aimlessly doing this until I just had to quit. And just my last day working as a chauffeur, I found out about an organization here in San Diego called Little Fish Comic Book Studio, where they were actually teaching comic art and comic education to students of all ages. And that's run by Alonso Nunez. He started that in, I believe, 2012, 2013 now. But I started, checking things out there, and he actually helped me out and let me, get opportunities to help out some of the student bodies. And in particular, this gave me some guiding light after I had quit working as a chauffeur, because I just physically could not do it anymore. I couldn't deal with the exhaustion and just being depressed and treated like a slave, like you don't control your own life, even in those moments where, you are, not with a client, you still feel like, okay, you could get called in on any moment. So it's like, it makes you too anxious to even relax. And sadly, that's kind of stayed with me. And so it does give me a strong work ethic to get stuff done. But, I do feel like I could relax as a person more. So at Little Fish Comic Book Studio, there was a kid there who I could easily tell was on the spectrum. His name was Adrian. And he had to be working with him, oftentimes work by himself, because the other kids just could not deal with him. But I saw too much of myself in this young man. And I worked with him and I helped him, and I could tell that he had incredibly narrow interests. I say, you could expand interests like that. I told him, one of my worst things that I ever did when I was your age was not diversifying myself too much. I was just like, only Marvel Comics. I was only Nintendo games. I was only Star Wars. And I never gave myself the opportunity to dabble into like Sega or DC or Marvel. And only later in my life could I do that. And I kept telling the kids, the stuff you love right now, take in as much of it as you can. I know parents are going to say, you're watching too much TV, you're playing too many video games, you're reading too many comics. No, do that now while you're young, because when you're older, you will not have the time for all of that. And that sort of stuff is going to be the foundation of your creativity. It is going to be the stuff that inspires you, because when you hit the bricks in real life as an adult, you won't have the time or sometimes the energy. It's a really tough balance, because now I'm an adult with a job. I've got the money to buy the stuff, but not the time to enjoy it. And it's the downside of this. But I, kept working with Little Fish Comic Book Studio for a while, until Alonso actually wanted to appoint me president of the board, where I actually had served in that role for 6 years. And in the meantime, I also took up a new day job working for an online publication called World War Wings that was owned by this company called Country Rebel. Basically, what they were doing is doing World War II clickbait. They wanted to do just stuff on planes and just say like, click this, just dumb articles. But I took the articles seriously. I actually added fundamental historical research to this. When I came in, kind of like knowing nothing, I found I was getting called out on the comments for, oh, you got this wrong, you got this wrong, you got this wrong, you got that. And so I learned what I was getting wrong, how to do things accurately. And World War II history ultimately became one of my passions. And I would start doing World War II history animated videos that got millions of views on YouTube. And I actually had fun with those. And it was a great educational process that actually generated so much discussion. But the founders at Country Rebel just, oh, we need clicks, we don't need this educational stuff. It's like, guys, it's not a sustainable thing. You need to have substance. You can't just be pandering. You can't just be lowest common denominator. You need to focus on the true. And I was having creative differences with them. And in around December of 2018, I said, I put down an ultimatum. You need to do this, because if you do not do things this way, wings will go belly up in half a year. And because they disagreed with me, they fired me. And, but they proved me wrong. I told them they'd be out of business in 6 months. They proved me wrong. They were out in 4 months. Yeah. So, I was feeling really sluggish and bad at the time, but, I still moved forward with Comic Fest, and Comic Fest was still my baby. And it, gave me this opportunity to, give myself a feedback to the community, to reach out to comic stores and to fans, and, just to cultivate an event on my own. And it's just wonderful that I can bring it, because each year it's what gives me hope. And because it's an opportunity for me to see all my friends, for people I feel who may not have a voice or given opportunity to speak on panels, and meet their heroes who have made these characters that they love so much, as I often do, and I've found for myself. And I worked some other jobs, and along the way I had worked at a video game publisher called Critivo. And as much as I like video games, I wasn't right for working in video games. And after my time at Critivo ended, because I was ultimately working as their PR guy, as their marketing guy, setting up events for them. And then there was this new virus going around. And when I'm setting up things like E3 Expo, Game Developer Conference, the PAX South, all of these events that I was setting up for their appearances, and when they're getting canceled because of this upcoming virus going around, you ended up cutting off a finger to save the hand. And I find myself without a job, just living the quarantine life, sitting around all day, waking up at 1 p.m., going to bed at 5 a.m. And you do that for how many months? It really kind of sucks. And the truth is, none of us came out of COVID the same. We were all changed by this in one way, shape, or form. There is, if I can say that COVID did one good thing, and if it did one good thing, it's that it reignited people's love for collecting. People really got tired of screens. People got into new passions, or reinvigorated those certain passions. YouTubers who I don't like Jake Paul and Logan Paul, started opening up packs of Pokemon cards, and that interest spilled into Pokemon. It spilled into sports card collectibles. It spills into superhero collectibles. And all of a sudden, these collectible companies are seeing reignited fandoms all over the world during this time. And when people are getting unemployment checks and their stimulus money, they've got some extra cash to load. So, they're ordering things from online comic stores or eBay and getting back at these collectible things. It really reignited it. And so ultimately that's raised interest in Upper Deck, and Upper Deck all of a sudden realized they have some roles to fill in the superhero areas, because a lot of the folks around here, I love them to death, but mainly they're not comic book people, they're sports people. So I guess my predecessor was ultimately a sort of a sports guy who was having to deal, working through comic book stuff to do it. And he didn't make the cut, which opened up a role for the talent relations coordinator. And so, I think I was just moseying around unemployed, just, bouncing around on LinkedIn. Of course, I've been applying for jobs at Upper Deck for the better part of a decade. And I just do quick apply on LinkedIn. I'm like, good talent relation, whatever. I'm not going to get a quick apply, move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing. Yeah. And then the very next day around 5:30 p.m., I get a call, and I'm thinking no, I don't need my car extended warranty. And as I'm about to hang up, it's like, hi, is this Matt speaking? And I almost hit that end button. Hi, this is Tim from Upper Deck. Oh, hi. Would you be available for a Zoom interview in the coming days? I'm available at 2:00 tomorrow. So I got in front of him, in front of my library of comics, and I spoke with him. And I spoke with him for an hour, and he says, wow, you've got to be the most ridiculously overqualified candidate I've ever seen. Your story is kind of amazing on how you've learned to do everything here and where. I do have to get over to other candidates. We've been interviewing them by the hundreds, and there's still more to go, but we do appreciate your time. And I thought, all right, thank you so much. And I'm like, I'm not going to get this job. Hundreds of other candidates, I'm not going to get this job. And I took a stroll around Liberty Station that day. And as I'm leaving and just watching the sunset, I get another call. And it's like, hello, hi Matt, this is Tim from Upper Deck. I realize I'm wasting my time with other candidates. I want to make you an offer. And here I am.
I love hearing that story. Like no matter how many times. I mean, you're just so. I love because it contains everything. It contains like people who have lifted you up. It contains like you creating opportunities for yourself by being driven by your passions. You didn't let that, you know, what you were saying to the young kid. I love that advice that you gave to him of like, don't limit yourself. Try to learn as much as you possibly can and expand your own horizons. And that set you up to having this opportunity where they just knew it was you, you know? So I really just think it's amazing. I want to open it up to anybody else who has questions to Matt right now. We have about 12 minutes. So I want to give everyone a chance on this call to ask Matt any questions that you might have. You can
Yeah, sure.
unmute or type it in the
And
chat.
I feel like that's just, you know, scratching the surface of the tip of the iceberg of my story. I mean, I could still talk for days, but I, you know, want to get the essential stuff out there. I rarely live a boring day of my life, but I honestly wish I did have more boring days because honestly, like I said, it's hard to relax because I always have something going on.
Mhm. Do you think that's a goal for you, you know, in moving forward?
Yeah, learning to relax at some point because I deal with exhaustion. I have a commuter job. I have all these things. I can't just, I don't know, just go home and, you know, at home. I feel like I just go home to sleep. I'm
Mhm.
kind of just there. I should watch TV. I should play video games. I should read comics or something, but I find it just, you know, incredibly hard to disconnect from all of the things I do have going on in life. And I know it is healthy to disconnect from things, but it's just, I don't know, maybe I'm just anxious. I worry about missing things. So.
I know that's a reality for a lot of people, especially after the pandemic too. I know it's like a lesson of just being an adult is learning how to balance everything, and taking care of yourself and your mental health. It's really important.
Yeah, I mean, it is, you know, something I do there. And of course, like, do I struggle with, you know, the mental health issue every once in a while? Yeah, I always do. Like, who doesn't? It's, you know, we're going to have our bad days. We're going to have our depressed days. We're going to have our happy days. And, you know, it's winter doesn't even help when, you know, when you struggle to get out of bed in the morning to be, you know, in the role here. And we do have a question here from Ann Leslie. She says, "Hi, Matt, what does your job at Upper Deck entail?" Well, I'm a talent relations coordinator. So basically, I get to be the go-to guy who reaches out to people who may be interested in drawing trading card art. So I say, "Hi, my name is Matt Dunford. I've seen your art portfolio. Would you like to draw this project?" And of course, I negotiate, you know, artist rates, you know, projects, deadlines, that sort of thing. And basically, I'm an advocate for the creators to help out with them and make sure that they are treated fairly and properly. I fight for creators because without creators, we have no creativity. We have no, I mean, these characters have to be drawn by someone.
Mhm.
I mean, there's AI art, but AI art is weird and it sucks.
Mhm. I want to give a shout out to Matt's family on here. We have Auntie Ellie or Auntie Beth coming from Boston, and we have Mary Lou here, and then Jim. I'm so glad to see you again. Thanks for joining.
We're all so proud of Matt. The thing that I love most about Matt, actually, there are many things I love about Matt, but I must say that he's an incredible empath. I'm astounded again and again at how generous and giving and kind and loving he is to his friends, his, you know, the creators. I follow him mostly on social media. I mean, we don't actually talk that much. I don't call Matt. We don't, maybe once in a blue moon, I'll text him. I follow him because he's so extraordinary. The stories that he puts out, the things that he writes about the people, the love that he has for people, the advice that he has for people. He puts himself on the line too. He expresses himself so well. I worry about his self-care. I think because he goes, the extra mile for everybody and he worries that he's going to miss something. He just said it. That was my main concern to him, is how can you have more self-care, because you must be exhausted. I mean, I think also the other thing I wanted to say is, when are you going to write your book? You know more about this industry than anybody, I think, out there, and it's encyclopedic knowledge that deserves. You need to have somebody by your side that's going to be writing this book for you about the comic industry. So anyway, we're very, very proud of you, Matt, and love you much.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, it's like, thanks so much. And Leslie, yes, we do. We also do internships at Upper Decks, for the aspiring people who want to learn the tricks of the trade and get into it. And when you mentioned Pokemon collecting, my son is very into it. Yes, Janice. All the coolest people collect Pokemon cards. And actually, as of late, I've had a resurgence trying to get my coworkers into the Pokemon trading card game. I have no trouble at all saying that's where I met all of my best friends, because I started going to, Pokemon leagues around September of 2000 after kind of just playing the game by myself. And, I had so much fun playing Pokemon. I was very bad at Pokemon. I was determined to make Charizard work, the most expensive card in the game. It's like, you can't make it work. You can't make it work. But the first time I played it at a tournament and actually won my first game, I played against this 11-year-old kid with glasses and big buck teeth and a big afro. And I was so happy. And he's like, wow, you really beat me. Dang, you must be really super good to make Charizard work. I'm like, thanks. And he's like, look, nice to meet you. My name is Matt. My name is Lee. In fact, I'm going to go see Lee tonight. We're still friends 22 years later.
Oh, that's amazing. And thank you, Beth, for everything that you said. I think it really brings to light. I welcome Jim, and I noticed that you put in the chat, he says, hi, Matt, your mom says that you're cool.
My mom says I'm cool.
I love it. I welcome anything you want to say to Matt right now, or I'm curious of what's like to support Matt in his journey as a parent.
Well, we have 3 children, and he was just one of them. I mean, everyone in our family is very talented, and we're proud of everyone. And, Matt, his birthday is coming up, so it brings me back to the memory that I was hospitalized with him, and he was a very early preemie. It was touch and go, and he turned in from this 3-pound premature baby to this big icon that he is today, and we're ever so proud of him.
A little too big of an icon. My birthday wish next week is like, I just want to get in good health. It's like I still haven't shut off that COVID-19.
Yeah.
Might be a COVID-26, but no, who's counting?
He used to have 6-pack abs until a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, he traded in his sit-ups and push-ups for Pop-Tarts, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and that and being hunched over a desk at work all day. So
That's true.
But
No.
yes, we're very proud of his accomplishments.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's been quite an experience. I would tell all the parents, I would just say, it's very difficult when, other kids are getting traditional awards for things like football and stuff like that, and your kids are more interested in something else. You have to recalibrate. And but we didn't really have any problem with that. All of his brother is an anthropology major, one of them, another one was an engineer. But whatever they tried, they were always good at it. But they always went to the beat of their own drum. There was never a time when they ever followed a pathway that a teacher was particularly excited about. They, honestly, if you can imagine, when Matt was in 2nd grade, he got all Fs and everybody said he was lazy, right? Matty it wasn't appreciated how brilliant he was for a very long time. He was just considered to be lazy and like his brother. No, just kidding. Who was also kind of misportrayed for a very long time. And so I think that is the issue, is you have to stick with your kid and trust them and believe in him, whatever it is that they love. right? I mean, can you imagine if somebody was born with an aptitude for music and people said, no, we don't want you to do that, or ballet, or whatever they had their gift, and somebody steered them away from what they were naturally good at. That'd be just a waste. And I do think that among the many people that are talented in this world, there are a few that are more talented than people on a spectrum. I think that they are the spice of life. And so they should be, rewarded and called out. And there should be companies that pay to have this kind of brilliance. I think the problem is that too many companies still have some stigma and stereotype about these things. And they need to get over that, because that is, in the middle of a bunch of guys that just basically plod along in their jobs, you have one or two people that are thinking completely outside the box. If you're a smart CEO, that's exactly who you should be seeking to get. And I think it's a little hard to kind of cut through all that noise. And it's taken Matt a long time to do it, but he's achieving that. He is not competing, however, with Elon Musk for the most wealthy person in the universe.
No, I'm just trying to be the biggest D-bag on the internet. That's what I'm competing for right now.
This has been a problem.
I'm doing a good job.
Trying to get Matt to not say things. How many times have you been kicked off Facebook?
Yeah.
I've racked up like 7 30-day bans now. In fact, my first one was ever say, coming soon for this Thanksgiving onto the Hallmark Channel, Men Are Scum the movie, which gets you 30 days in Facebook jail, because Men Are Scum is considered hate speech because it's defaming a group of people.
Called men.
But I'm not wrong. And come on, that's every Hallmark movie.
Now, these are the kinds of things as parents you actually try to explain to your kid. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. Don't do that. But anyway, they're great stories after they've passed. And we get to mold them and turn them into the real thing. So to everybody, we're very happy that we met the Autism Tree. My sister Mary Lou, actually, I think, was the first to introduce us along the way, but we were already making friends. I see Jeff Snyder down there. Jeff was just out here on the West Coast a couple of weeks ago doing his thing. And it's just been a really very nice, very supportive community. And so anyway, thanks a lot for asking our opinion.
Tim, I want to introduce myself to your wife. Hi, Renee. I'm Dana Hoff. My son's on here too, Garrett, and we started Autism Tree when Garrett was diagnosed with autism. So I'm going to want him to say hi to you guys. But what I want to tell you is I took lots of photos, like I always do, and I told Matt on the pre-call with him before we went on that my favorite moment at the reception was taking photos of your husband taking pictures of Matt on the red carpet. And I took so many. It's Jim taking pictures of Matt, and Matt's having a blast, and you're having a blast. And I feel like that's the heartbeat, honestly, of Autism Tree, is we are always celebrating. We're just like one big family, and not everybody even has a child or is married. There's a lot of people who are very much part of the Autism Tree family that are just incredible, and they're just these blessings that love our families and love what we do, and I'm always amazed by that as well. So it's very I would say non-traditional, but at the same time, the thread of what is really the essence of it is everybody's heart connecting to each other. That's really what it is.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, so nice to meet you. Garrett, are you on here? I want you to say hi.
I'm on. Hi,
Garrett.
Matt. Great job. Always a pleasure hearing about your story. I enjoyed your panel as well.
Thank you so much.
And it's always I feel very fortunate to have been a part of a supportive community and family, and it's always heartwarming to see family rally around. Because it's been a long week. I'm studying for my first set of finals for law school.
Oh,
And so my brain's
Enjoy that.
fried.
Yeah.
But it's the burden is so high, and so it's always it takes a village. not a family. And I think that's one of the things that makes the autistic experience powerful, is that we have to trust and rely on our village, and we come to appreciate them. So it's always heartwarming to see a great village, and very nice to see the Dunford clan on the chat. Again, great job, Matt, and very nice to meet everybody.
All right.
And it is, really nice to see that, that there is a support system. Sometimes you can do it on your own. I've proved it can be done. It's good to follow your dreams, because you don't really see too many 8-year-old kids out there. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a real estate agent. Yeah, that'll get you a good building, but you don't ever see kids saying that. And especially with me, because I was kind of aimlessly guided without career goals. I just knew what I like. And you see, the truth is, with a good support system, loving parents, robust good looks, and a good push-up regime, even you can make it too. I'm not disadvantaged in any way in this world. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Can you come real late for dinner tomorrow night?
Okay. I've been told to stay away from the kitchen. I'm probably going to burn the house down.
That reminds me, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, which is tomorrow, what are you most thankful for, Matt?
I'm thankful for a day off. Because it's just like an opportunity to relax, because I don't really get too many of them anymore. But I am thankful for everything that my family has, been there to help me. The friends that I've made along the way, that I do have these opportunities, do help to, help creative talent, and ultimately to help others along the way. I don't really consider my job about me. My job is about making sure that others are taken care of. So I do get to be a superhero like that sometimes, and it's that is a reward unto itself too.
I gotta say something. I'm gonna feel deep regret if I don't, Matt, let you know that the Leslie family has, they're just this robust family in so many ways. And Scott is won lots of awards, and Anne for kibbles. And I'd rather just let them introduce themselves, their whole families. How about if we start with you, Scott? You guys talk about whatever you want, but introduce yourselves in a way that Matt can understand the connection between you guys and Matt.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine.
Sorry, we got two computers going here. Okay. Hey, we were wondering, do you know someone named Kevin Van Hook?
Kevin Van
was
Hook.
the creator of.
Now we can't hear him.
Wait, now we can't hear you.
Hold on,
Hang
hold
on.
on.
Yes, I do know Kevin Van Hook.
Wait, we can't hear you, Matt. Okay, so say that again.
I do know Kevin Van Hook.
Cool.
Oh.
I was a cinematographer for a horror film we did.
Awesome.
But he's obviously deep in the whole comic book thing, and so he's a great guy.
Yeah, I do know Kevin. We've met in passing at some comic conventions before. I like him.
Yeah, good guy. Yeah, so I do film, different video stuff. So I'm in that kind of industry.
Yeah, and that's, and I'm jealous, because it's like, I kind of, feel like, I'm helping people create stuff, but I still want to create my own stuff out there. And so it's just one of those things where it's just like, I wonder what's next for me. And I envy people who get to create stuff all day, because I guess, I do get bored easily. And I guess that's what leads people to be creatives, because you get tired of doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's a hunger for something new, to create something new, to experience something new. And, the world needs creativity. Otherwise, it just ends up being a really, really boring place.
We've got our own creative. Avery, can you put your face in the picture? Either one. Oh, come over here. This is our son Avery, and he's
I'm at art school right now.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Otis Art College, doing
Nice.
some amazing things over there.
That's the student I mentioned earlier, Adrian Perez. He actually studies at Otis as well.
Oh,
cool.
Like right now?
Yep.
The name sounds familiar. I think because it's a small school, so I know
Adrian Perez, kind of a skinny guy, blonde hair, usually wears long sleeved shirts because he's of the Always Cold Club.
I think I might know that person. I'll have to check my following. So know a lot of people at Otis.
Yeah, Adrian's awesome. I've worked with him for 10 years, and it's hard to believe that he's now in his senior year at Otis.
Can I show him one of your art pieces from in the hallway?
Matt, the Leslie family is a total blast. I'm thinking you guys need to invite Matt to do something with you guys because you guys are so much fun, and I want you to know each other. I just know you're meant to be a little bit deeper friends.
I feel like
Awesome.
Love that. Okay, let's spotlight it.
Fantastic.
This is really cool. I dig the style. Are you familiar with the artist Sam Keith?
No, I'll look it up right now though.
Yeah, Sam Keith. He does a comic called The Max, MAXX, which was later adapted into a TV show on MTV in the early 1990s. And ultimately, he got his start doing comics in the 1980s, doing some DC stuff and some Marvel stuff. And he also co-created Sandman with Neil Gaiman. He was doing the early issues of Sandman. And he does his own creator-owned work is actually a lot like the visual style that you have right there. So I think it'd be really cool just to check out some of that work that he does.
Hilarious. It's like
Weird.
it's like what do you call it? It's kind of in your face, but it's also whimsical.
Yeah.
It cracks me up.
That's
My
great.
art is very campy pitch.
Thank you for sharing your art. That's amazing. Great job,
Scott.
Yeah.
Can you please, before we leave, tell Matt about maybe the work you and Gage do together, or just anything about Gage, and just maybe even any of them like at a project that you've worked on that you think Matt also would find interesting, because you have such a huge body of work and I feel like you're not sharing it with Matt.
Yeah, so Gage has been doing a bunch of editing with us now. So
Hi Gage.
I mainly do like for this place, I do like Winter Wonderland.
Oh yeah, but he'll be there in Winter Wonderland. But as far as editing goes, he was doing a bunch of stuff for this company called Filmio. So just whenever I have a bunch of editing work and I need a good editor, I bring Gage in now. So he was just an assistant for a while, but he quickly, he learned the ropes, and he's got a good kind of sense of things, So a lot of editing is kind of intuitive, and Gage has really been great at it.
That's so exciting, you guys. What do you think's one project, Scott, because you've done so many, what's one cool project that you want to share with Matt that you've been involved in, or a dream that you've had, or anything? Share something with Matt that you want him to know.
I don't have much for me, so you're gonna have to go.
So I mean, my favorite things is working on films, So I do a lot of times I do these films where I'm actually the cinematographer and the editor, and that to me, I always like taking something from the start to the finish the whole way through, which is very rare. Most people are only cinematographers or editors, so I like doing both. So definitely the film I shot with Kevin Van Hook, the werewolf film, that was fun. So that was the good one. I'm actually right now working on a horror film that hopefully I'll get made here, in about a year. So that's what I'm doing.
That's awesome. Even though comics are my preferred medium, and I've got my own stories that I like to work on, but it's always on the back burner because I have to it's like, oh, I need to do this. I have to hire an artist. I got to make sure I have enough to pay them for this sort of thing. And of course, I don't like to see any artist work for free, because I always tell artists, especially when I'm negotiating, it's like, no, don't do this for free. Your skills are valuable. If you needed the exposure, I wouldn't have found you in the first place.
Yeah, that's great.
I definitely want to take a group picture before we all hop off. Like to turn on your cameras, please do. Okay, great. Let's everybody smile. Ready? 3, 2, 1, cheese. Perfect. And then Matt, I just got a text from Otto, and I just had to say it before He said, tell Matt we love him and so sorry we have to miss today. We'll watch later on YouTube. He says, happy holidays and tell him I'm totally stealing autopilot.
Yeah, tell him the autopilot is so fly.
So, Matt, I think you guys will, no matter what, see each other at Comic-Con, right? Leslie family, you guys are always at Comic-Con, are you not?
And it's like,
We
yeah.
try.
I hope we all get together before then. But Matt, if there was two,
Sometimes.
if there was two people that I wanted Matt to know, it would definitely was Dr. Levy. That's just a straight line. But I think there's a lot of fun to be had, Matt, becoming a little bit more involved with the Leslie family, even though everyone's so busy. I just want you to know, like, I hope that can happen somehow organically. So nothing but love. I think it's really interesting, Avery, that Matt knows maybe one of your colleagues at college. That's kind of cool. Yeah.
Such a small world. I love all the connections that happen on Autism Tree. That's why we keep doing these. Well, thank you,
everybody. Matt, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Matt.
you.
All right, thank you so much for having me
Take
on
care,
today.
Matt. Take care, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Else.